Facebook ads, workouts, and the economy in Utah. We've got a lot to cover today. I'm Cameron Porter, owner of Robin Hood Studios, and this is Venture Utah. We'll be inviting Marcy Barker with Fun and Sustainable Fitness and Bonnie Randall with Bonfire Legends. But first, an update on the economy here in Utah. Utah's unemployment rate dropped nearly 2 points from April to May, dropping from 10.4% to 8.5%, showing that people are getting back to work as the economy opens back up. Utah's jobless rate put us in second place in the nation, behind only Nebraska with a 5.2% unemployment rate. The national average unemployment rate in May was 13.3%. Now, while the unemployment rate in Utah tells a rosy story, the other side of that coin is job growth. Only 2 of 10 measured private sector industry groups reported net job gains in May, with the other 8 groups showing declines. That said, Utah had the highest job growth rate in the nation in May, with a negative 4.8% job growth rate. There are reasons to be optimistic, but it would be wise to expect a long and painful recovery before the economy looks anything like it did prior to the shutdowns. The state moving into the green phase may not mean what you think it means. Many Utahns are expecting green to mean back to normal, but the green phase is intended to establish the new normal, where COVID-19 becomes a natural part of our lives, and plexiglass dividers, masks, and sanitizing cleaners will be something we all live with for the long term. According to Teresa Foxley, the president and CEO of the Economic Development Corporation of Utah, the goal is to re-engage in the economy in a new way, and in a way that is very different than it was in June of 2019 or even January of 2020. It is my personal observation that too many people are not going to be willing to accept a new way of life for it to have much chance of success. The morbidity rates for COVID-19 are simply not threatening enough for anyone under the age of 60 and with no pre-existing conditions for them to have the patience to change how they live their lives. I'm not arguing whether people should or should not be willing to change how they live their lives. I'm just pointing out that for most people, the threat isn't large enough to keep being patient with all of this. The Utah Governor's Office of Economic Development has just concluded their fiscal year 2020 and reported roughly double the projected job creation and increased tax revenue from their funded projects this year over last year. For those who don't know much about GoEd, its mission is to enhance quality of life by increasing and diversifying Utah's revenue base and improving employment opportunities. The industries that GoEd is currently targeting are aerospace and defense, energy, financial services, life sciences, outdoor products and recreation, and software and IT. GoEd's vision for Utah is that we will lead the nation as the best performing economy and will be recognized as the premier global business environment and tourist destination. Much of what GoEd does is solicit businesses to move to Utah and bring more jobs into the state that way. Critics of GoEd maintain that homegrown businesses keep getting the short end of the stick in favor of bringing in companies who are only coming to the state because of the financial incentives. Proponents of GoEd argue that the best and fastest way to diversify and strengthen the economy is to bring in businesses to complement the strengths and weaknesses of our homegrown sectors. Alrighty, now it is time to bring on our first guest for this week, Marcy Barker with Fun and Sustainable Fitness. She's going to be talking to us about how to establish and keep healthy routines in a time when all of your routines keep getting disrupted. Marcy, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So let's talk a little bit first about Fun and Sustainable Fitness. What is this thing?
Fun and Sustainable Fitness is shifting habits with movement, mindset, and nutrition, but all at a level and pace that's fun and sustainable. Because let's be real, if you try to do something and you don't enjoy it and you can't do it for a long time, what's the purpose of doing it? So my job is to help my clients shift their habits in a way that's enjoyable so that they continue to do it.
So it's kind of the approach of creating a lifestyle as opposed to a specific regimen.
Yeah, for sure. And my clients, sometimes they're like, give me a shopping list, tell me what to do. And there are definitely periods where that's helpful because you have to go through a learning process to, if you want results you haven't had before, you have to do something you haven't done before. So there's definitely a place for cut and dry steps, but for the most part, people know their bodies. They just need help applying what they know. Because everybody's like, oh, I know what I need to do, I just need to do it. And it's like, well, why aren't you doing it? And so yeah, getting behind the whys of why they do and don't do certain things related to their health is exactly what I do.
And a lot of it probably comes down to either it's unrealistic for their life situation, or it's not fun for them.
Yeah. Yep. And a lot of people get their expectations mixed up when you start to follow the wrong people or the wrong ideas. So
like losing 5 pounds a week.
Yeah. Well, one client was like, I want to lose 30 pounds in 8 weeks. And I'm like, totally fine. That's doable. But why? She's like, well, I'm sick of my mom's comments. And I'm like, let's talk about the real reason you want to do this. And so it's really enjoyable for me to get to the bottom of the why, because once a client figures that out, their actions are way more deliberate and efficient.
It makes sense. So, obviously things this year have been very rocky. Things have thrown a lot of people off base, and a lot of people's routines got disrupted.
Yeah, for sure.
So how does fun and sustainable fitness focus on establishing healthy routines?
So I went through this personally because I enjoy CrossFit, but I also teach fitness classes as well. And I was so nervous that when the talk of closing down was happening, because I teach fitness classes at the pool, and I was like, please do not close the pool. I have to figure out something. But one of the things I help my clients do is figure out the why. So the why behind your movement is, I know that I exercise my body because I want to beat depression, because I know what it feels like and looks like when you don't feel good about yourself. So when I canceled my gym membership, I was like, okay, what is the real reason of why I want to do something? Am I going to be mad I can't do pull-ups for a couple months? No, I'm going to be mad if I feel if I'm in a place where I don't enjoy my life. And so when you're disrupted, it's important to get to the real why. Why are you moving your body? Why are you missing your routine? Why do you get out of bed and do those things? So understanding your why is really important.
Now, that's how deep do you need to dig to figure out the true why, I guess? I mean, because everybody says, oh, well, I want to feel better, or I want to be happier throughout the day. Is that sufficient as a why, or is there a deeper layer?
I think everybody has a why that maybe they haven't reached yet. So people who are honest with themselves get there quicker, because some people try all the fad programs and their why is still a physical condition. But really, our bodies don't always know what our physical condition is like. We deal with our mind every single day, and it's something that we can't turn off. So one example is in my mental strength challenge. It's a program I have where I help people figure out the do's and don'ts, the why and why nots of making changes. So one of the lessons is called why times 5. So for me, people come to me and they say, oh, I want to do a pull-up. And I'm like, okay, why? Why do you want to do a pull-up? Well, I think that I should be able to by now. Well, why? Because I've been working on my health for a really long time. Well, why have you been working on your health for a long time? Because I want to feel good. Well, why do you want to feel good? Because I don't want to be depressed. So when it comes back to your why are you going to get to the gym? To be able to do a pull-up? No, you're going to get out and move your body because you don't want to be depressed. So when you come down to the real why, getting off the couch is way easier. Super easy, because you can beat depression like that in that moment. But you can't just go and do a pull-up. Sorry, you guys think you can just do a pull-up in a month. It doesn't happen in a month. But when you recognize your real why, you can be happy right now.
I love that. And so that would be, it sounds like that's what you might call the core. That's the first thing to being able to conquer disruptions to your routine and keep things moving. Number one, you have to know why. And that's what's going to give you the strength and motivation to find alternative methods. Is that correct?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's 100 ways to reach your goal. So when you know your why, your ability to reach your goal just became that much more easy, because it's not a specific workout plan. It's not special meal plans. There's no cut and dry answer. So that's probably my favorite part, is that every client is different, and working through those individual issues and things like that are what really makes the difference for each person personally.
So once they've got that and they've got that motivation and they've built that out, is there a second step that they can take that pretty much everybody can take that's the same for everyone?
Yeah, I think counting your successes is something that I preach to all of my clients, because the very best way to improve upon something is to focus on it. So one of the things I tell all of my clients is they need to say, I'm awesome, because is that the truth? Yes, we're all pretty awesome. And even if you haven't reached your weight loss goals, you can still be awesome by drinking enough water. You can be awesome by turning off the TV. You can be awesome by shutting down thoughts and environments that aren't good for you. So being flexible with that process and counting out all the good things that you are doing, because it feels good when you recognize you're working in the right direction. So count your successes. It's really important. So
Count your successes.
say it. Say I'm awesome.
I'm awesome.
Doesn't it feel good?
It felt okay.
And it's right? Are you awesome?
I don't
You're
know.
awesome. Yes, you are awesome.
I try to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so figure out your why and then tell yourself you're awesome.
Count your successes.
Count your successes, yeah. So figure out your why, count your successes, and then at that point, is it time to just strategize and execute?
Accountability is extremely important. So as you're counting your successes and pointing them out, you're going to recognize what you like doing and what you don't like doing. So it's okay to change your mind. You know, I have a client who's like, I'm not going to eat fast food for a year. And I'm like, that doesn't sound fun at all. But she gave herself permission to adjust and adapt that goal as she sees fit. So the whole point of a fun and sustainable lifestyle is you being the boss of your health. You're not living by a set of rules given by somebody else. So adapting and giving yourself permission to change and grow is extremely important, because when you know better, you can do better. And right now, like I said, if you want results you haven't had yet, you have to do something you haven't done yet. So adapting and adjusting and holding yourself accountable to growth is extremely important.
I love that, holding yourself accountable and being flexible. You brought up you mentioned not eating fast food for a year, which brought up a question in my mind. For my lifestyle, being a business owner, I'm often out doing sales calls, I'm out doing shoots, and so I don't really have time to prepare something, or if I bring something, it has to be something I can eat cold, and that's not always enjoyable. Yeah. So I find myself eating out a lot for those reasons. And I try to make healthier choices when I can, like, Subway instead of Wendy's.
Yeah.
But so this is a question I've had for a long time. Is Subway actually a healthier choice?
It totally depends on who you are, because the most important thing you can do is be okay with your choices. Because if you go and eat crappy food and you tell yourself you're crap and you tell yourself you feel like crap, that's going to breed more crap. But if you tell yourself, I made a good choice today, I ate Subway instead, then that attitude is going to propel you to make the next best choice. So in all of my programs, what I do with my clients is I hold them accountable to 4 different things, which is sleep, self-care, water intake, and movement. And nobody's exempt from those things. You cannot cheat the basics of health. So at the end of the day, Subway, it doesn't matter. How are you doing with your sleep, self-care, water intake, movement? Because consistency over a long period of time is what measures your health. A one-time stop at Subway, or even if it's frequent, like your progress is going to be measured what you do consistently. So the sleep, self-care, water intake, movement, hopefully that's all ingrained in your mind. Sleep, self-care, water intake, movement, those are the basics of health that if you really work on mastering those, a lot of other decisions aren't as important.
So sleep and water intake, those are pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand. 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and then drinking, what is it, a quart a day or a liter a day?
64 ounces.
64 ounces a day of water. What do you mean by self-care?
So self-care can look different for a lot of different people, but the best definition I like to use is that it's the difference between distraction and development. So say you never watch Netflix, but at the end of the day you want to sit down and relax, then that can be a source of relief for you. But if you find yourself doing that every single night, it's kind of a distraction to your goals. So if you are finding 20 minutes a day to say, what do I want to do? What's important to me? Remind me that I'm me and not mom, wife, mother, whatever. Then you are putting yourself in a position of self-reflection. And when you do that, your body, your mind, your spirit, it's going to tell you how to improve, and you're going to feel better. So self-care can be, nobody can tell you what is self-care for you. You're going to be the one that gets to decide how you put yourself first for a short period of time during the day. And at the end of the day, if you can't put yourself for 20 minutes, why does it matter what you look like? Why does it matter what you weigh? All of the things that people care about, you have to prove that it matters to you by putting yourself first on a very small level first.
So what are some indicators for someone who is trying to figure out the right amount of self-care? How do they know if they're maybe leaning too much into pampering themselves and not pushing themselves enough?
I think a good indication is your skills that you're developing. If you're learning something new, if you're becoming more proficient with the things that matter to you, then that's a really good indication that you're putting yourself first and growing. If you start to talk about, every conversation starts with, guess what I saw on Facebook? Or I saw this meme or whatever, then it might be time to give yourself something a little bit more productive to do. But again, that's something I do as a coach, is help people figure out where the balance is between lazy and crazy.
That's a fun way of saying it.
Yeah.
Balance between lazy
You
and
heard
crazy.
it first here.
And that's interesting. And I've noticed that myself, where it becomes, for me, it's just a question of trial and error. And it's not always obvious when something needs to change, but over time I can tell a difference between, okay, well, I've been operating my days this way, or I've been operating my days this way. And so, we've fallen into a pretty good habit of, productivity ends at around 9 p.m. for our family.
Oh, yeah.
We're productive until about 9 p.m. and then we can play video games, we can watch Netflix. Kids are in bed by that point, so we can just be whatever, we can do whatever we want. Unfortunately, that is all the time. I had like 15 more questions, but for people who want to get in touch with you and learn more about what you could do for them, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, my website is called funandsustainable.com, and I have a free trial into my membership called Marcy Circle. Marcy Circle is my hub of information. Workouts, meal plans, training, podcast newsletters, and all of my coaching programs are available inside of Marcy Circle. So
awesome. Funandsustainable.com.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
It was great to have you. All right, now while we are waiting for our next guest, Bonnie Randall, I have a very quick reminder for all of you. Venture Utah is about strengthening and connecting the small business community here in the state of Utah. We do that by having on experts in their field to educate on their topics, educate business owners on business-related topics, and also personal health and development-related topics. We also have these experts and invite people onto the show for free. There is no charge to come be on Venture Utah, and you can reach thousands of people here in the state to hear your message and to establish your credibility with them. So if you want to be on Venture Utah, please go to ventureutah.com and click on Become a Guest. And you can just fill out that form and we will contact you when we have an episode that we feel like fits your business. So if that is something that interests you, please take advantage of that offer. And our next guest is, as I mentioned before, Bonnie Randall with Bonfire Legends, but also several other companies, which we'll probably touch on during this conversation. Bonnie is going to help us understand the recipe to make a successful Facebook ad campaign. Bonnie, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
So, how have you been today?
Good.
Good? Good,
Yeah.
Good day. Sweet. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, you were telling me before we started rolling that your success journey with Facebook advertising actually came from an unexpected place. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been doing marketing for 15 plus years, almost 18 years now. And I never really got into the whole social media marketing thing because I felt like there was a lot of other people who did it, and it's a niche that I felt like, kind of like SEO, you have to be doing it constantly to really stay up with the trends and things like that. So I focused most of my marketing career on branding and traditional marketing methods and integrated marketing direction and things like that. Anyway, we had one of our companies needed to start doing Facebook ads because we were seeing our competitors do it, and so we thought, gosh, we've really got to start doing this. So we hired a social media company to do it for us. It tanked. So we hired another one. It tanked, and we hired another one. Also not seeing any results from it.
Oh my goodness.
And this is not a reflection on social media agencies or anything like that. I don't want that to come off that way, but for whatever reason, the ones we hired were not delivering results. And when I say results, I mean sales, right? Because as a business owner, you can't survive off of likes or engagement and shares and things like that. You need to actually see the money that comes from your efforts. And that was something they didn't seem to understand. And so we dove into it and became a little obsessed about learning Facebook ads and Facebook in general, and took as many courses and read a million books. And I think we spent, I don't even want to get into what we spent on training that year, but it was insane. And lo and behold, my husband got a phone call from our Facebook rep inviting him out to a private event.
Wow.
And I couldn't go. I was on bed rest at the time with one of my kids. And so he went out there, and while he's sitting in the audience, he comes to find out that there's about 200 people there in the room. And they told everybody this group represents the top 0.02% of all Facebook advertisers worldwide.
Wow.
He starts looking around and he's like, I think I'm in the wrong room. Like, there's no way we are in this group. We're terrible at it, is what he was thinking. And come to find out from his rep that it meant in his particular category, which was business tech at the time.
Okay, sure.
And so people started asking, well, what are you guys doing? Like, if you're so good, like, what are you doing to get these results? And we started realizing that the results he was getting was not normal. And so we started analyzing it and putting it all together, and we realized it all came down to a very simple formula and not complicated. We like to make things a little harder than they need to actually be, let's be honest. And we realized that there was about 4 things that really takes to make a good Facebook ad. And as I started studying this, I said to my husband, you know, this is just good marketing. These 4 things are the same 4 things that you need for any advertising campaign, not just Facebook. And anyway, so yeah, it was totally on accident. It was not, we didn't realize that that would end up happening. And our classes that we now offer to teach people these things are all happened organically because people started asking, you know, can you show us what you're doing? And I'm like, it's not rocket science, guys. Like, just get back to the basics and you'll be fine.
So you've got me on the edge of my seat.
What are those 4 things?
Yes. Are we going to go through those?
Yes. Let's
Awesome. Let's do it.
So the first is, like I said, this is not rocket science, okay? Like, you're going to hear the 4 and you're going to go, oh, that makes total sense. So the first is the right audience, right? So we all know that your target market and understanding your customer segmentation is really important. The thing that we do differently and that successful companies do differently is they dive deep into understanding who their customer is. They create something that's called a customer profile, or you may have heard customer avatar. There's a million different names for it. But essentially it just means understanding who your customer is on a deeper level. So getting to know them intrinsically, their ideology, their buying behaviors, what brands do they buy, not just your competitive brands within your industry, but what other things are they doing? Where are they hanging out? Where are they spending their time? There's just understanding them as a person and then finding them, if we're talking about Facebook, on Facebook. And we do that through what's called targeting and audience building. And there's a lot of misconceptions there. People think that audience building is doing lookalike audiences or custom audiences. And yes, all of that has to do with it. But most companies, when they start with building their audience, they either start with their current customer list, which you can upload into Facebook, and then you can do lookalike audiences from that.
Sure.
Or you start with what's called interest targeting. And that is where understanding your customer's interest is going to make or break your thing. Too many people go broad. They think the bigger the audience, the better, right? I mean, that sort of makes sense. But when it comes to starting out your Facebook campaign in particular, bigger isn't really better. Because if you think about it, if you're trying to attract everybody, you're going to attract nobody, right?
We call that, so we do similar things with a lot of our clients. We call that vanilla ice cream.
Yes.
Just like nobody minds vanilla ice cream. Everybody's okay with it. Everybody's, you know, oh yeah, okay, vanilla ice cream. But you don't drive all the way up to Utah State to get vanilla.
Right.
You don't drive down to the BYU Creamery to get vanilla. There's a specific thing that you love that compels you to take that much action and go out of your way to get it.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good analogy for it. So targeting, audience building, essential. It is one of the most important parts of the 4 key elements. If you get this wrong, it doesn't matter how good your ad is, it will fall flat on its face. Because if you are, let's say I'm selling steaks and my audience is vegans, it doesn't matter how delicious that steak looks and how compelling I am in my argument and in my offer, those vegans aren't going to be eating steak. So, you know, that's kind of how we like to explain it.
Yeah, I love that.
The second thing is your offer, your irresistible offer. And I get a lot of eye rolls with this second one, with the irresistible offer, because everyone's like, well, duh, you know I need to offer something good. But then when I say, well, give me a good offer, Usually they can't. They come up with just a so-so offer. And what I'm talking about is something so irresistible that your target market can't help but stop their endless scrolling and going, oh, that looks amazing. And they start drooling and they start getting all excited and they can't help themselves but click because it's so irresistible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's take our steak example again, and let's say we're going after meat eaters, and that's them.
Probably a good audience.
Let's say the irresistible offer is get a case of steak for free. You just pay shipping. That'd be pretty irresistible. Let's take somebody who's really into bodybuilding, and you're giving away a whole canister of protein powder. Protein powder can be expensive. It can be like $70 for a canister. So to somebody who's really into bodybuilding and they see a $70 giveaway, that's irresistible to them. And so I always suggest to people, think about something that you think is good, up the ante, and go as much as you can before it hurts. Well, until it hurts too much, right? Think about your math and you kind of figure out where's my profit margin, and when you're testing out ads, we say, get to that point, your threshold. And that's usually going to be the sweet spot to start. And then you finagle and you kind of test and you do all that stuff. Number 3 is the ad itself. So the copy, the design, what's in the ad. And this is the part where ad copy is an art form. It's something that takes practice. Most people, even if you're a really good writer, the first few drafts of your ad copy are usually toss away because you're going to refine and make probably 15 or 16 versions of your ad before you finally settle on something that's really good. I can tell you, now that we've been doing this a long time, we probably have 12, 13 versions of an ad before we settle on something that we feel is polished enough for prime time. We rarely go with our first draft of anything. And there's a lot of, to hone that skill and to develop that skill, I would suggest you follow people like Ray Edwards. He is a master copywriter and he has a lot of free trainings on copywriting. And he is very well known in that space. Digital Marketer has a lot of copywriting. They have a lot of digital marketing free trainings in general, but they do some really good stuff on copywriting as well. And anyway, so copy and design, important. And it's what's going to, your offer and your audience is what's going to stop people, but your copy is what's going to get them to click. Okay, and your offer is what's going to get them to click. And one of the things we learned at that conference is that you have 1.7 seconds to stop people. So it's called disruptive advertising because if you think about it, you're on your phone, you're scrolling through your news feed, right? Looking at all the funny videos your friends are posting, and then you see an ad, right? And you have 1.7 seconds before they start scrolling past for them to skim what you've got. That's why we see that video tends to be some of the most profitable campaigns for us as video campaigns. There's more inventory for video, probably because it's harder to do, more time consuming and stuff like that. But the movement and that jarring movement is what a lot of times wakes people up out of their mindless scrolling. And remember, most people have video on mute for the first, I think it's like 10 seconds or something like that. It's on silent. So subtitles are really important and things like that. Okay, and so now that was number 3 is ad copy. Number 4 is your landing page, where you're driving that traffic to is what is going to hit the home run for you. So I say your ad copy gets you in the door. It gets you that start of the conversation, and as soon as they hit learn more or click learn more or shop now, what they've done is given you permission to continue that conversation and to continue selling. And I always hear people say, like, people don't want to be sold, they want to be whatever and things like that. Well, there's some truth to that, but if you are speaking their language, you are selling. That's what we do as marketers. and people know that. So the landing page is what does the heavy lifting for you. It's what's going to create that conversion. The ad creates the traffic, the landing page creates the conversion. And one of my biggest pet peeves, my husband's going to laugh when he sees this, that I'm talking about it again, is that the landing page doesn't connect with the ad. How many times have you clicked on a pair of shoes or a shirt or something like that that you think is super cute, and you're in the ad and you're like, oh yeah, I like that. You click on it and it takes you to someone's homepage. I didn't want to search for it again, people. I liked that shirt. I want to be taken to that shirt, to buy that shirt, not to see all the million other things that you said. That is terrible conversion, right? Like if you think about it, I'm having a conversation with you and we start talking and I say, so how was your day today, Cameron? And you're like, it's good. And I say, how many kids do you have? I have 4. And then I say to you, what are their names? And instead of telling me your kids' names, you go off and tell me some problem that you have at work. There's a big disconnect, right? We're not continuing that. So you're gonna see better conversions if you take them to a landing page that takes them where they left off. So you do kind of like a brief recap of what they just heard and what they just saw, and then you continue. And people think shorter is better, and that's not necessarily the case. It depends on the product that you have. You want to keep talking and keep going with as much copy as you need to sell and to answer all the people's questions. They're gonna click off of your page if they're not getting their questions answered. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see on a landing page is not enough information.
Well, that was, speaking of information, you
Sorry,
dumped a lot. No, that was fantastic. And that was, I mean, I am very impressed that you were able to get that much out that quickly. Well done. Unfortunately, we are out of time for the segment, but for people who want to get in touch with you to attend one of your courses or take advantage of some of the materials you offer online, what would be the best way to get in contact with you?
So we won't be doing any more classes until the fall.
Okay.
But we do have a recording of our last class that we did that people have been asking if they could buy, and I'm happy to let people buy that if they want to do it themselves, take it that way. I prefer the in-person courses or over webinar courses because you can do the Q&A. But our website is bonfirelegends.com with an S.
Bonfirelegends.com. Perfect. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yep. And that concludes this episode of Venture Utah. We will catch you next week at the same time, Friday at 10 a.m. Thanks for being with us.